Hello friends, and welcome back to the channel for my first ever champion specific guide. Now, it's no secret to those that have followed me for a while that Morningstar is one of my absolute favorite champions in this game. And after typing up my crash course on how to Morningstar for the 50th time or so the other day for someone, I finally decided that it was time to sit down and produce something more polished and permanent. Now, at her core, Morningstar is a ramp-up champion that requires a few fights to reach her maximum potential. Morningstar was one of the first two champions in the game to include a persistent charge mechanic. Her charges are called souls, they stack up to 5, and are the source of most of her abilities. She's a mystic champ and thus excels at punishing the use of buffs, both by removing them and by decreasing their potency. Unlike most mystics though, she does not require fights with lots of buffs to be effective, nor is she dependent on the use of the Mystic Dispersion Mastery to fuel her abilities. When fully ramped up, she has solid survivability, thanks to a very high perfect block chance and a lifesteal mechanic. When playing Morningstar in a quest, you want to build up your souls to 5. You can gain up to 1 soul per fight, which means your first goal every fight should be to use your special 3. After using it, there will be a soul counter on yourself that starts at 50. It will increase by 5 whenever you damage your opponent. This includes things like hitting them, hitting into their block, and dealing any type of damage over time. The counter will go down by 5 whenever the same actions happen to you. If the counter reaches 100, you gain the soul. If it reaches 0, you have to start over with another SP3. If the counter is still active when your opponent is KO'd, you will gain the soul automatically, and similarly, if your SP3 KOs your opponent outright, you will also gain the soul. Now, the fastest way to get to your special 3 is usually to make use of your heavy attack, which grants you a power gain buff. The potency of this buff scales with your soul count, so be sure to weave it in with your normal combos, and it is very valuable to use even after you've gained all 5 souls. Each soul that Morningstar has captured grants her new abilities as well as strengthens existing abilities in her base kit. At 1 soul, Morningstar will apply a bleed to her opponent if she's struck. The bleed is not very potent and seems to be meant to help increase the soul counter if you're struck while it's active. At 2 souls, she will trigger an unstoppable buff after each special 1. This doesn't do much for you offensively, but can help in instances where the game drops your input and you find yourself throwing a special attack into a block. At 3 souls, her special 2 becomes unblockable. This is really useful in many situations. You can use it to counter Heimdall's True Strike buff, and you can use it to get around auto-block mechanics like Guardian or Medusa. In situations where the SP2 is removing buffs, you can sometimes launch multiple SP2s back-to-back if you have some points in Mystic Dispersion. 4 souls is when the party really starts. Morningstar will gain a 50% chance to perfectly block any hit. This chance is among the highest in the game and works against any type of attack. If 4 souls is the party, then 5 souls is the after party. Here, Morningstar gains a 20% chance on every hit to lifesteal half of the damage dealt. This lifesteal scales with crits and is based on your modified attack value, which means fury buffs or other external sources of attack increase will also increase its potency. Once you've captured your opponent's soul, you should stick to your special 1. The special 1 will deal bonus energy damage per hit that scales with your soul count and is the primary source of Morningstar's damage throughout a quest. The special 2, which we touched on a bit earlier, will detonate any and all buffs on the opponent, dealing a massive amount of energy damage per buff removed. The question I probably get asked most often about Morningstar right after "how do I use her" is, does she need to be duped? The answer is definitely no, but the dupe does help. When awakened, she starts the quest with a free soul, which shortens your ramp-up time to 4 fights. Her awakened ability also allows her to siphon buffs from her opponent. Any fury, regen, or power gain buffs that your opponent activates automatically suffer a decrease in potency, and Morningstar gains her own buff of the same type in response. The power gain siphon can be really helpful against annoying power gain matchups like Hyperion, Vision Arcus, or Mordo. Against nodes like Vigor or Arc Overload, she will start to heal herself up whenever the node is triggered. This regen even triggers against the Masochism node, which is something I don't think many players know about. So should you awaken her? I would say if you like using her and find yourself using her often, then yes. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't worry about it. I did use a Mystic Gem on her way back when, and I don't regret it. If you're leaning towards awakening her but aren't sure how many Sig Stones you'll need, don't worry. She functions just fine at Sig 1. Additional levels only affect her buff siphoning, which is a nice to have, but definitely not critical. Another benefit to using Morningstar is that she doesn't require any synergies to be a great champ. If you add OG Guillotine to the team, Morningstar gains another free soul at the start of the quest. This can be used as a replacement for her Awakened ability, but also stacks with it, allowing you to start a quest with 2 souls right away and shortening your ramp-up time to 3 fights. This can be very helpful in shorter quests like the monthly side events. Adding Magic or Angela to the team increases the duration of all of Morningstar's buffs. This is very helpful for the power gain buff from her heavy attack, and also makes the buffs from her signature ability last longer. This synergy will increase the duration of her Unstoppable to 3 seconds and is helpful if you're using Morningstar for a node like Can't Stop, Won't Stop. Her best synergy is that with Guillotine 2099, another one of my favorite champions in the game. This synergy grants Morningstar an enormous boost to her critical damage rating for every captured soul, and at 5 souls, more than doubles her effective critical damage. Not only will you be seeing bigger crits, but also a significant increase to how much you'll be healing via her lifesteal mechanic. Some other synergies that you might find helpful include the Mr. Fantastic Mutant and Mystic synergy, which refunds a percentage of power for each unique special attack used by a Mystic champion. Since you're almost always going to be using 2 of Morningstar's specials every fight anyway, this can assist in letting you spam the special one more frequently. If you run Suicides, a synergy you may want to go with is the one that Nick Fury has with the Deadpool characters. Given Morningstar's natural bleed immunity, this synergy removes the poison debuff from Liquid Courage. With the lifesteal you get at 5 souls, she can recover much of the recoil damage, making her a very suicide-friendly champion. Morningstar's perfect block and lifesteal make her a very sustainable champ. This makes her a stellar choice in Alliance Quest or in Incursions, which is where I use her most frequently. Increases to her attack via the hacks will increase the potency of her lifesteal, allowing her to heal up to full from the brink of death in just a few hits. Another mode where Morningstar has proven to be quite useful is in the Abyss, where you need a solid Mystic champion for at least your first path. Morningstar can handle all of the fights you need a Mystic for on the easy path, and watching her detonate Venom the Duck's buffs over and over is extremely satisfying. If you want to see a very skilled player use Morningstar in the Abyss, Yeet put out a champion-specific guide for using her there, and I would encourage you to check that one out. Longer quests like those huge paths in Act 4 are where her sustainability really allows her to shine. For both newer players still relying on parry and veterans dealing with the enormous attack values in Act 6, the perfect block can be a big potion saver, and the lifesteal can help cover up any mistakes. Morningstar's biggest weakness is that she's pretty bland in early fights when you're trying to get her ramped up. This problem is exacerbated if you don't have her awakened, where the ramp up is even longer. Her damage overall isn't game-changing, so you can expect most fights to take a few more hits than usual, but as is typical with many Mystic champions, you're sacrificing damage for some very powerful utility. In short quests with only a few fights, she is a very poor choice, as the quest will usually be over before she reaches her full potential. She does activate buffs consistently, so she won't work well against nodes like Buffet or Prey on the Weak, and unlike many newer Mystics, her basic attacks are all physical damage instead of energy, so you can't use her against a matchup with Korg. To be honest, there's not much I would change about Morningstar. I think she's a very well-balanced champion. These days, utility reigns supreme, and so a second immunity could be a small but important improvement. She essentially has no physical body, so poison immunity could make sense, or you could say that since she is literally a suit of enchanted armor, she might have armor break immunity. One thing though that I've always thought would be cool would be a synergy that gives Morningstar access to a 6th soul. Even if it didn't grant her an actual new ability, being able to further empower things like her power gain and her special 1 damage would be really cool. Realistically though, I can't see either of these things happening, but they're fun to think about. The last thing I want to cover are a couple of tricks with Morningstar that you may not know about. The first is that at 4 souls, Morningstar can achieve 7-hit combos after every parry as long as the opponent doesn't have the means to reduce the stun duration. If you do a double medium combo, you'll have just enough time to start a second combo with a light attack and then can finish it normally from there. Now this works because of an oft-ignored line of text in the parry mastery which says that the stun duration increases by up to 0.5 seconds with perfect block chance. Now at 4 souls, Morningstar's perfect block chance is so high that the length of the parry stun is just enough to get 7 hits in. Before I go on, I have a little confession to make. Earlier in the guide I said that Morningstar can only gain 1 soul per fight. Well,
that's not entirely accurate.
There is a very specific situation in which she can gain 2 souls in a single fight, and that's when you fight Nick Fury. If you destroy Nick's LMD with your special 3, you will automatically gain a soul, despite him not actually being dead. Since the fight isn't over, the soul counter activates and will start ticking thanks to the degen damage that Nyx takes in his second phase. And then when it hits 100, you'll have gained a second soul in the same fight. Now I tried this trick in other situations like Life Cycle and against Immortal Hulk, and it didn't work. So I'm not certain that this interaction is intended, but it's so niche that I doubt it will be fixed anytime soon. Well folks, that's going to do it for this guide. I really enjoyed doing this. I'll probably try and do some more like it for my other favorite champs. I hope I've given you a reason or two to give Morningstar a shot, or a second look. She may not be flashy, but she gets the job done. Let me know what you like or dislike most about her in the comments below. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more guides, and as always, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you again next time.